Okay. Hey, Kyle. So, my thoughts are that the wrist conditions play a really important role. How the wrists load and unload is a big determinant in where the center mass is being sent. So, one of the reasons I'd like to get this part really clean is because this left wrist, as you take it back, has to get flat. So if the grip's strong, what that really means is it's just more cupped in the left wrist. So if it's cupped and I hinge it, then the wrist conditions are in the wrong spot. And if it's up here in the wrong spot, then it's going to be hard to keep the center of mass back over here. It's going to be easier if this thing is cupped and I start uncocking my right wrist to send it this way and then kind of body block it. So my thought is we've got to get this left wrist feeling like it's in the right spot. So the way I feel it is, normal neutral grip, maybe 1.5 knuckle on the left hand. Kind of how Jack described it was how your arms hang naturally by your side and then grip it from there. But I need this left wrist to be flat here because from P2, from basically P2, this left wrist is flat. Now from there, all I'm doing is getting under the club and continuing to go in the right wrist. I'm loading underneath it this way. So this left wrist flattens out here, and then I get under it. So that's what we did in Tithata when we went like this. Like that, trying to get this flat underneath it so we can get it here. So that way, if the right wrist is loaded and the left wrist is flat, center mass is in the right spot, then from there, coming down is going to be a lot different because from P4, so basically from P3 here to P4 to P5, the wrist angles don't change. They're locked in. Once they get to where they're at P3, they might load a little bit more from P3 to P4, but they don't necessarily unload from P4 to P5. They actually, from P4 to P5, they stay cocked. Then from P5 to P6, the right elbow starts to uncock. Then the wrist starts to uncock at the bottom of the arc. So we got to get the right wrist loaded properly going to P2. Then we can get under it, which I think you're already starting to feel. But from here, I think if I start to get overactive and release the right elbow and the right wrist from the top too much, this way, it's going to send it out too steep, in transition too steep. You want the steepness to happen after nothing changed to P5, then the right arm fires. So let me see if I can say that better. The flat left wrist here, I get under it to the top. I don't necessarily feel like I'm releasing from here. I feel like I'm releasing from P5. From there, the right arm can fire. If the right arm gets up here in a weird wrist position and then uncocks on top of that, it's going to get steep. If the left wrist is flat and I load up underneath it and then don't change the wrist angle to P5, all I've done is moved like this. Then I've still got the lag held because I'm not unlagging it up here or throwing it with my right arm like this way. The configuration from P3 to P4 to P5, the wrists don't change. And the right elbow doesn't change. Then the right elbow starts to fire, P5 to P6. Then the right wrist kicks into gear, P6 to P7 to P8, kind of through impact. So let's see if we can get the left wrist in the right spot going back. The takeaway has to be clean, cleaner than you've ever felt it. Nothing moves, going clean back. Then get under it the way you've been feeling. Then in transition, I'm not unleashing that right wrist, right elbow yet. From P4 to P5. Now right elbow starts to fire, right wrist starts to fire, everything moves together, impact to finish. So that's how, by not releasing my right wrist and my right elbow, keeping my arms in this configuration, when I turn, this stays on plane. Then the right elbow starts to go, then the right wrist starts to go. But it's all happening so I feel this right elbow go from there, from P5 I feel it go. I don't feel it go from here, I feel it go from, not from 4. From 4 to 5 it stays the same, from 5 to 6 it uncocks and fires. So the right arm going like that. But it's happening from P5 to P6 to P7. One thing I'll add also is I spent a ton of time when I was trying to get the shaft to not come in this way. I spent a ton of time hitting balls feeling heel deep divots. So I'd chip balls like this and I'd feel, what would it feel like to bang the heel into the ground? So heel deep, and that drill really helped me because to make a heel deep divot I've got to be really back. I can't push down and get the heel into the ground if this left glute's not back. So we spent a ton of time going heel deep, thump, and then recock. So I hope this helps answer your question. The wrist conditions, I forget about them sometimes because they're so ingrained in me, I don't even think about them anymore, but this left wrist, I want it pretty darn locked in from setup. I mean, it's where I want it at setup, and then as I take it back to here, this has to be flat. Once it's flat, I can get under it in the right spot, then transition, and all I have to do is unload the right wrist from 5 to 6 to 7, or right elbow, right wrist. So I think if you unload it too early, it gets too steep. I think you transition and unload the right arm later. You might get that effect because this right arm goes from 90 degrees to 180 degrees, but it's gradual and the speed increases. So it's slow up here, slow, 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 fast. Slow, 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 fast. So it has this like gradual building of speed. So if I'm going 20 miles an hour here, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, it's like that right arm is accelerating from here to here. But if it gets too fast here, it'll throw it out of configuration. It has to be smooth, fast, smooth, fast. That's why rhythm and sequencing becomes the only thing that's important once your mechanics are within 80% of right. So once you can kind of get the strength, which I believe you're already there, so I think sequence and rhythm is more your issue than mechanical flaws. But just keep that in mind, that as you get some of the things marked off your checklist, this game becomes more and more about how's your body feel and what's your rhythm like than it will ever be about mechanics. So I hope this helps. Thanks again, Kyle.